hello to all our friends who are tuning into Today All Day.
It's our favorite streaming channel, so thank you all for joining us for our digital show, Today in 30. We got a lot to get through, right? So we should probably get started. First up, COVID cases still rising. Our conversation with Dr. Anthony Fauci on the new vaccination push.
Plus, we're answering all your pressing questions when it comes to keeping your kids safe in school. Also ahead, our friend Jill Martin is here to introduce us to an engineer turned entrepreneur solving a problem that many women can relate to.
And on Dad's Got This, meet the father and daughter who have pedaled right into the history books.
I can't wait to see it, so let's get started, Craig, because it's time for
Today in 30.
The coronavirus and the vaccination push. Pfizer's shot now the first to be fully approved by the FDA. Health officials are hoping it will motivate more Americans to get vaccinated. But what about the other shots? And what about a vaccine for kids under 12? We'll go one-on-one with Dr. Anthony Fauci in a moment. But first, NBC's Morgan Chesky is in Houston with our report. Morgan, good morning.
Hey, Chanel, good morning. And this new approval cannot come fast enough for the doctors and nurses facing this surge of unvaccinated. In the Houston area alone, COVID cases have nearly doubled in the last week. And now this new FDA approval is setting off a flurry of new vaccine requirements at schools, businesses, and universities. Everyone doing whatever they can to stem the tide of that Delta variant.
This morning, a new chapter in the COVID-19 fight, one that many hope will spur those still on the fence to finally get vaccinated.
The moment you've been waiting for is here. It's time for you to go get your vaccination and get it today. Today.
The FDA granting full approval to Pfizer's vaccine Monday for anyone 16 and up. Scientists scouring data from 40,000 trial participants, finding the shot's 91% effective in preventing COVID. The FDA review process taking less than half the normal amount of time.
The good news is that this effectiveness is not only against the old variant, but it is effective against the new variant, the Delta variant.
In a statement, the FDA went further, saying, although we approved this vaccine expeditiously, it was fully in keeping with our existing high standards for vaccines in the U.S. The approvals now set in motion a slew of vaccine requirements. The Pentagon announcing they'll mandate the country's nearly 1.5 million active duty service members be vaccinated. And United Airlines informing employees they must be fully vaccinated within the next 5 weeks.
Have a good first day.
Pfizer's full FDA approval comes as more children return to in-person school and pediatric COVID cases reach levels not seen since last year's winter surge. More than 180,000 cases added in the last week alone. This is 200,000 kids in Houston return to school Monday.
Our focus is to ensure that our students, staff, and community beyond our students and staff are safe.
But there are still holdouts.
I'm not really saying I'm going to do or not going to do. I'm just still thinking.
Overwhelmed healthcare workers now reaching their limit.
I feel some anger sometimes. They pushed it aside and ignored our advice, and then they come back asking, and it's frustrating and heartbreaking.
And we're also hearing more from Pfizer's CEO, who says after reviewing data, he believes that follow-up booster dose will be a must-have for everyone 6 to 8 months after that initial vaccination. Craig?
Morgan Chesky for us there in Houston. Morgan, thank you. A lot to talk about as we welcome in Dr. Anthony Fauci once again. Dr. Fauci, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
You've expressed some confidence, Dr. Fauci, that this full approval is going to move the needle in terms of vaccinations. Is that because you think that previously skeptical of folks are going to suddenly rush out and get the shot? Or is that because more private companies will be able to mandate that they get the shot?
It's going to be both. There's a survey that shows that about 30% of the people who have not gotten vaccinated and have been reluctant to get vaccinated have said that once they get what they consider the stamp of approval, the final imprimatur from the FDA, that they would very seriously consider getting vaccinated. So that's one element. The second element is what you just said on the piece, is that there will now be much more enthusiasm in mandating vaccines, be they in corporations, places of employment, universities, colleges, the military. All of that, I believe, will contribute greatly to the number of people vaccinated. And the third thing is that the company, in this case Pfizer, can now advertise. So there'll be a lot more advertisement out there, which you were not allowed to do unless you did get full approval. So I believe those three things working together hopefully will get a lot more people vaccinated.
Well, let's talk about this group that's still not eligible. And as a parent of two small children under the age of 12, what's the likelihood that that group is going to be able to get the shot before the Christmas holidays?
You know, I think there's a reasonable chance that that'll be the case. What's going on right now is that the companies, both Pfizer and Moderna, at least two of them, as well as working with the NIH Clinical Trials Group in my own institute, are working very hard to get data on both the safety, the correct dose, as well as the immunogenicity, namely the predictability that these vaccines will be effective. We're collecting that data now. That data ultimately will be presented to the FDA to look at it for the balance between safety and risk-benefit ratio for the children. I hope all of that process will take place expeditiously and that we will have it on the timetable that you just mentioned, hopefully by the mid-late fall and early winter.
All right. But before I let you go, over the past week, roughly 1,000 Americans have died every day from the virus. We know that nationwide cases are up. In a lot of places, hospitalizations are up as well. But here's the thing, as you know, roughly, I believe 73% of the eligible population right now, they've gotten the shot, Dr. Fauci. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel?
You know, I do, and it's going to totally be up to us. If we get the overwhelming majority of those 80 to 90 million people who had not yet been vaccinated, who've been reluctant to get vaccinated or had not had the opportunity, I believe we can see light at the end of the tunnel, where we reach a point where there's enough of a veil of protection over the community that you see a dramatic diminution not only in cases, but in hospitalizations and ultimately, of course, in deaths.
Are you talking fall, winter, early spring?
You know, it's going to depend on us. It really is.
Okay.
It's in our hands. Our fate is in our own hands. It probably will be, you know, as I've said a couple of times, if we do it right and get through the winter, I hope as we get to the spring of 2022, we'll be there. I hope so. It's up to us.
Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Fauci, thanks as always, sir. Do appreciate it.
We are back on the plaza with our ongoing series, Coronavirus in the Classroom. This morning, a major topic of conversation and contention, unvaccinated children.
Yes, several steps remain before kids under 12 will be eligible for the vaccine. In fact, the FDA recently revealed it could be early to midwinter.
But the urgency for that approval mounting with a new study showing child cases have jumped significantly. Check this out. From about 38,000 per week in July to 180,000 last week. So how can we keep our kids safe as the new school year gets underway? Well, we've brought in our team of experts to answer your questions. And we're going to start this morning with senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres. So, Dr. Torres, let's start with that study because we haven't seen those kinds of numbers, I think, since last winter, if I'm correct. What's behind them, and what does that tell us about COVID and our children?
And right, Craig, we haven't seen those numbers since the winter. Those certainly aren't numbers we want to see. But what we are seeing are these children getting more infected, and unfortunately more of them are ending up in a hospital as well. The reason this is happening is because as numbers overall go up, children are going to get infected as well. And so they're being essentially drug along with these higher case counts. And this is the unvaccinated that are causing this issue of these widespread outbreaks around the country. Now, these numbers aren't as accurate as we'd like them to be because some states are reporting children 0 to 14-year-olds. Other states are saying 0 to 20 years old, but at the same time, we do know that absolutely numbers are going up. We need to do what we can to protect the children, Craig.
All right, we reached out to a parent group, Dr. Torres, to talk about or to ask about the #1 topic of conversation. No surprise, perhaps, masking. This is a question. From Terry. Terry's a mom of 2 young children.
Our son is high risk, but he really needs in-person learning. What should we do?
Dr. Torres, what do you say?
In an ideal situation, everybody in the school would be masked, teachers, staff, all the students, but we know that's not how it is across the country right now. And so the main thing to do is, #1, make sure your child wears a mask. That's extremely important, and talk to them about wearing a mask all day long. On top of that, look for what's happening in the classroom. Are they social distancing? Are they staying in pods or cohorts? Are they staying in classrooms where they have these assigned pods? And then find out about testing protocols. What's happening there? You know, talk to the teacher. Even though masks aren't required, are most students wearing masks, or are most students not wearing masks? And then at that point, you might need to make a decision and say, I'm going to pull them out of the classroom for a while, unfortunately, but at the same time, you want to make sure your child is protected as possible. So the main point is just do your homework right now before they go to school so you understand what's going on while they're in school, Craig.
All right, useful information. Dr. Torres, thank you.
Let's turn now to the end of summer activities. For that, we are going to say good morning to NBC's investigative and consumer correspondent, Vicki Nguyen. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning to you.
We have good questions this morning.
Yeah.
Let's start with the first one. A lot of people are trying to squeeze in a trip maybe before school starts. If your kids are unvaccinated, talk to me about the risk for putting them on an airplane.
This is always a personal calculation of the risk versus reward. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, what is my child's health? Do they have any pre-existing conditions that if they got COVID, it would be complicated? Next, where are you going? What is the infection rate where you're going to be? And then I would ask, what are you planning to do? It's going to be a lot lower risk if you're visiting vaccinated family members and hanging out outside versus if you're going somewhere, you're going to be out in public in crowded indoor spaces with folks.
That's a good point. All right, speaking of getting together, let's talk about that. You want to get together with your family. We have a question from Allison in North Carolina. Let's roll the tape and then we'll talk.
I'm wondering what we need to know about play dates. Can my kids go to crowded playgrounds without masks?
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, assuming your kids are 12 and under 12 and unvaccinated, you definitely want to avoid any sort of indoor playgrounds, any place where the air smells stale or it's stuffy or it's poor ventilation. When it comes to outdoor playgrounds, the good news here is we've talked to a ton of public health experts who have children themselves. They all agree being outdoors is a good time to give kids a mask break. The one caveat is, look, if you're in an outdoor playground where your kid is in constant close contact with other kids for 10 to 15 minutes, you might want to go to a less crowded space or consider putting them in a mask.
Especially now that the weather is nice, we'll try to keep them outside while we can.
Right.
Good advice. Thank you, Vicki.
Yep.
All right. Steph Rule joins us now with how to keep your kids safe if you're returning to the office in the fall. Steph, we're going to start with Stacy in Michigan, who has a question.
With offices reopening, what precautions should vaccinated parents take if they have unvaccinated kids at home?
Tom, I know you and I both have this question, too. We've got unvaccinated kids at home who are young. Well, we have already done the hardest part. We have gotten vaccinated ourselves. That is the best way to protect our kids. Now, if we're going back to work in person, consider wearing a mask both indoors and outdoors while we're traveling to work. Also, if we work in a shared workspace, and get information. Ask your employer, is there a mask mandate here? Are people showing proof of vaccination? The more information you can get from your employer, the better it will be, the position you'll be in to assess the risk for yourself and your family.
You know, Steph, so many companies are now encouraging employees to come back to work in office. If you do have kids at home, you're vaccinated, they're not. But if you just have concerns about coming back, how do you have that conversation with your boss without feeling like, look, I'm not being lazy, I'm just concerned?
Okay, well, know going into this that it can be very politically charged, so try to be calm and empathetic. Don't wait to have this conversation until it's the day you're expected back at work. Have it early. Explain your family situation, see if they can make some accommodations, and again, go back to seeing if your employer can require proof of vaccination, offer regular testing for employees, and if other coworkers have the same concerns, you don't want to gang up on your boss. But if you're in a similar situation, go to your boss together so you can sort of talk through this and find a solution that works for most of everyone.
All right, some great advice there, Steph. Thanks so much. Guys, you know, it's a tough conversation. These people, they want to go back to work. They don't want to lose their job, but they're also concerned about their family.
Hey, today in 30, we're continuing our She Made It series, Entrepreneurs Who Won't Give Up. And I love the story of Minky Blue. You will recognize this face when you see her because she pitched us this idea 5 years ago. And now she's back and she's chugging along and she's going to show you her happy dance.
Today, lifestyle and commerce contributor Jill Martin met an engineer turned entrepreneur who was solving a problem that many women can relate to. Good morning.
Good morning. Overload bag syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
How many times?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Every woman has been there where you're carrying so many bags. Things are falling out. And so she solved the problem. This is amazing. And the last time we saw Minky Blue founder, Sherelle Mosey, she was right here on the Today Show 5 years ago when she pitched her handbag business. Remember this series?
Yes.
To us as a budding entrepreneur. Since then, She's found success all over the world. Take a look.
I don't want to wake up one day and say, I wish I shoulda, coulda. I want to be able to say, at least I tried.
23 years ago, when Cheryl Mosey was let go from her aerospace job, she turned her misfortune into an opportunity to help others.
I started a nonprofit organization where I raised money to help single moms in college pay for childcare. But while I was working with the moms, I would see them carrying their diaper bag and their book bag and sometimes their purse. And I started thinking about this idea for this new type of bag where I could organize and separate items, but I didn't have any experience, so I was like, well, I don't know if I can really do this.
Cheryl set out to find a solution for what she calls overload bag syndrome. But without a background in fashion, she didn't know where to start.
I didn't know anything about manufacturing, sourcing, design, and so I started talking to people who knew more than I did and really engaging with the industry.
How did you get your first sample made?
I can't sew, I can hardly draw, so I actually went to Target. I bought a bag of the same size and same shape of what I had in my head, and I just started cutting it up and manipulating the bag and bringing that vision to life.
That's like everything right there, and you did it.
In just 30 days, Cheryl raised funds through a Kickstarter campaign, and combined with her savings, she launched Minky Blue in 2014. But it came with its challenges.
What was your first order? Do you remember it?
Yeah, oh yeah, because it was too much for someone just starting a business who had no customer base or anything. I ordered 1,200 bags, and that was way too much.
So what did you do?
Unfortunately, with that first production, 30% of my product was defective. That was really, really hard. I mean, there were many nights that I cried because I lost a lot of money. And I realized that I needed to slow down. And then I just really learned what I could before I went to produce any more bags. All of the bags have this panel here.
Cheryl designed her versatile bags with both function and style in mind, securing 2 utility patents for her fashion brand.
This is a shelf in the middle of the bag that converts the bag from 2 compartments to 1.
Today, the direct-to-consumer brand has sold thousands of handbags since its launch, shipping worldwide as far as Australia and South Africa.
Do you ever sit back and think how proud you are of yourself that you didn't give up?
I do, because sometimes we beat ourselves up so much. I feel so blessed of all that I've accomplished, and I do these little dance spurts to remind myself of the happiness.
You're on the Today Show. Can I see you dance spurt?
I just celebrate my dance spurt, and I just say thank you. I'm so grateful.
What do you hope other entrepreneurs will learn from you? Somebody who feels that frustration and has those tears that you had.
I would just say nothing beats a failure but a try. So take that first step and make your own prototype.
And then do the dance.
And do the happy dance.
Okay, so the bags are incredible. The organization is incredible because she has a place we could see right here. Okay, so if you go in the middle, Pet, there's a place for your shoes, for your workout clothes. We showed you in that. And then there's a place for your lunch. And there's a zipper inside. Yes, it's patented for the adjustable shelf.
Rejigger this a little bit. I would carry this.
Al is helping. Cheryl, Al has an idea. If we just make it black with black straps.
That's right.
It'll be for men, and he'll be on his bicycle with it. And I just want to say that we should all take a moment and do the happy dance because we deserve it.
You know who's not doing the happy dance?
Everybody
Our
do the
producer,
happy
Greeny,
dance.
in the control room. Wrap it up. Greeny said wrap it up.
This morning in Dad's Got This, a father and daughter who bonded over a love of biking, but probably not the kind of bike you're thinking about. Randy and Amy Olenek, they ride high wheel bikes, and they have pedaled right into the history books.
We're gonna ride with Bill.
Yeah.
I started riding high wheels back in 1991 when I was asked to join a high-wheel bicycle band that was being formed for the Great American Brass Band Festival in Danville, Kentucky.
Soon after, Randy and his family joined the Wheelman Organization. It's an international group that collects, restores, and shows antique bicycles.
My daughter wanted to ride with the Wheelman, but the girls all had to wear dresses and ride the safety bikes, and she did not want anything to do with the dresses. So she said, Dad, get me some knickers. I'm learning to ride a high wheel.
How old was she?
She was 13, I believe.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. I've been riding with her since.
I like riding with my dad because I definitely feel safe and secure. Often I think about what's going to go wrong. And so having somebody as a backup like, yep, we're going to be fine, just helps you get out of that negative mindset.
But one pivotal event led to the ride of a lifetime.
I had a very dear friend of mine. He says, I'm going to the doctor. He goes to the doctor, diagnosed with colon cancer. Two months later, he passes away.
His death gave Randy and Amy the push to ride cross-country on their high-wheel bikes together.
And as soon as he passed away, that was the straw that said, we're going, because you just don't know. Ray rode on the back of my bike as a guardian angel all the way across the country and looked over us.
The journey was 57 days, over 3,314 miles. They started in San Francisco and ended in Boston, Massachusetts.
I definitely learned a lot about my dad during the trip. He's the map person, but I'm the Google map person. And of course, when you're out riding for hours, you want to talk about something. I would try and ask my dad about like his past, because as a kid, you don't ask your parents about those things.
Amy was attempting to be the first woman to ride across. Unfortunately, another wheelman started several months before us. So I started thinking, I enjoyed the trip so much, I'm going north to south. And I told Amy, no woman has done both. So you're number 2 there, but if you do this, you will be the first woman. And of course, Amy said,
sign me up.
When you were on that cross-country track, what surprised you most about your daughter?
When you raise your children, you raise them up to like 18 and you send them off, but they're always kids to you. But she came back as an adult, so I got to learn what a great adult she had turned out to be. So it wasn't until after that it really dawned on me how special the time was. You're trying to get across the country and everything, but after the fact, when someone comes and says, that's the greatest thing you did with your daughter, and you're thinking like, yeah, it really was.
Why was it so emotional when you finished that trip with Amy?
When you finally get to the end there, you've made it, and you're sitting there with your daughter, and she reaches over and puts her arm around you, and it's done. And you just get like this, to be there with her, to experience that. But
making memories, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another memory to add to their arsenal, completing their 5th 100-mile bike ride on Mackinac Island this past month.
It's nice to have something in common with your parents. Just having an activity to do together is very bonding.
No chains here.
No chains.
No gears here.
No. As soon as chain and gear got here, these bikes disappeared overnight.
But you do have a bell.
You do have a bell. Get the horses out of the way.
Oh, that was the purpose back then?
Back then, yeah.
And what purpose does it serve now?
Get the people out of the way.
And by people, he means me. While I wasn't ready to ride myself, Randy did show me how it's done.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Holy smokes. You make it look so easy. You make it look so easy. Oh!
Wow, that's high.
Like, that's a long drop.
It's a long, but it's like, you get the hang of it pretty quickly. No brakes either, by the way.
It's crazy.
Really? Wow. So how do you stop?
No gear, no
You
brake.
can't put your foot down.
No, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Randy and Amy, by the way, they've been riding for more than 20 years. They'll probably continue for another 20 years. For more on their story and others, you can head to today.com/adscout.
Great story.
I love that.
We hope you're back with us for another big morning tomorrow here on Today. We're going to have some really great deals to get you ready for the fall season.
I love it. Have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow right here on Today.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.